What is going on, everybody? Alrighty, let's see. Let's see if we got this here. Bear with me 1 second. It was a very busy busy morning for the Fibs and Profit household. So I had to take a little cat nap, and I'm awake now. So I'm happy. I'm refreshed. I got my little iced coffee that my daughter made me, and we'll be rocking and rolling here. So what's going on, everybody? I thought I'd do a little special Saturday session, partly because the missus and my oldest daughter are actually in Atlanta for a pretty decent volleyball tournament that I was watching this morning on Baller TV. So it's always nice to try to catch your daughters playing. My son had some baseball this morning, so we were doing that. And we've got kids all over the place, kids and animals everywhere. So how is everybody? How was your week? How about them markets, man? It's, I'll tell you what, February, and I've said this before, February was notoriously my worst month of the year. In 2019, it was the worst month. 2020, it was the worst month. 2021, it was the worst month. And obviously, I don't have much to go off of 2022, but it was definitely below my average. Until last week, I was really able to pick up some really good percentages. Did I catch ACAD? I did not. I really didn't trade a lot towards the end of the week just because I had already secured about, I think it was right around like the 8% mark. So I wanted just to finish off February with what I had. We'll go through some of the charts. We'll definitely dive into it. There was plenty to play. I'll tell you that. My main bias for the week really was bullish dollar, and I really attacked, GU was a great play. AU was a great play. US dollar Swiss franc was a really good play. So we'll dive into it. We'll take a look at what's going on. And we'll go from it. So there's really no structure to today. I am going to be doing that giveaway. I'll be doing it, probably maybe like 15 minutes, 20 minutes for everybody that did hop into it. So again, if you haven't had the chance, and you know what, let me go over there right now. I'll throw it in the chat. If you haven't had the chance, just go ahead and like that post. Just throw a comment in there because I'm going to use a comment picker. So if you don't have to do more than one because it's just going to weed out the duplicate comments. But definitely dive in there if you want to get a chance to catch the 1,000 VPND. The 1,000 VPND is enough to open up for one node, and I'll definitely go through some node stuff that I'm looking at and what I did. Bear with me here. Let me go over here. So here's the video right here. So all I got to do is just like and share it. Give me a sec. I will copy and I'll paste it right here in the chat. If you haven't had the chance to do it, jump over there, and I'm going to use just a YouTube comment picker, and we'll go from there. Alrighty. This last week was the best, though. It was absolutely. It was a really good week. So while we're talking about it, I'll tell you what, there's 31 people on here right now. Do me a favor, just hit the like button on this stream to try to get it out there. So I'll tell you this. I don't know what Zumo is talking about it. So I got censored. I got spanked on YouTube, man. We were talking about this Russia conflict. We were talking about this virus stuff for all of 5 seconds, and YouTube banned the video that we were doing. It was like a New York session or something like that. So I love it. Talk about a free world, huh? You can't even voice your opinions or not even your opinions, but just a thought. So, but yeah, that being said, we'll definitely dive into stuff. Like I said, I'm going to do I'll do the giveaway for everybody. I want, if you're not diversified, right, you really should be. And if there's anything that I can really bring to the table, it's that, growing up, if I could do things over again 20 years ago, right, it would be to get involved in the markets. It'd be to be involved in what's going on in global macro and microeconomics. It'd be to get involved in Essentially learning about how money works and how money moves this world, instead of just sitting there collecting my 40-hour-a-week paycheck and thinking that everything would be okay. So, for those of you guys that are young bucks, congrats. You guys are in this at a perfect time. Like I said, I just hit my 40th birthday not too long ago, and I'm playing catch up, but I think I'm in a really good position where I'm at. So let's dive into it. Let's look at some charts. If you guys have something you want to take a look at, we'll definitely do it. Let's look at some crypto stuff. Let's look at some nodes. I'll tell you one of the things. I'll bring this up real quick. Hold on. I'll bring this up real quick. So I noticed, where was it? Was it this morning? Let me see. Nope, not that. It was this one right here. Let me see. Was it this one? Nope. Oh, yeah, there you go. There's my community guideline strikes. I got a strike against me on YouTube. I'm trying to find this stupid thing. Where is it? Let me just see. It's got to be one of these. Maybe this one here. Here it is. So this morning, I woke up and I saw that, normally on my Ethereum mining pool for my GPUs, right? Most of you guys have been following it. I have 31 graphics cards that I'm mining in my home. Not all of them are on Ethereum, right? Because I'm speculating mining on some. I'm doing definitely some Flux, and we're going to talk about Flux nodes today because this week is the big week, right? The Flux node requirement halving is happening. So if you're not looking to get into a Flux node, I highly suggest you do. I think Flux will be the next big crypto project to really. Yeah, I see Flux getting into the top 25 in market cap dominance in the crypto space. So by the end of the year. But yeah, so I saw that I was like, man, I'm only making about half of that. I'm normally around like the $25 mark, sometimes like the $30 mark per day on just my Ethereum rigs. And I was like, man, I pumped up some decent profits. I was like, well, why? What the heck caused that? And when I went on Etherscan, I just did a little search, right? And you can see this was a couple hours ago I did this, and I found what happened, right? You could see normally the rewards for each block is 2, this got 5, this got 3. This is all in Ethereum. Well, Ethermine, one of the pools, caught a 26 Ethereum block. Then this solo miner, right? This one solo miner got 16 Ethereum on just his one block, which is fantastic. Another Ethermine for 27, but you could see I use Hive on pool for my Ethereum rig through Hive OS. Man, they caught an 84 Ethereum block, 84. So essentially, Ethereum's trading at what, like $2,600. So 84 times 2,600. That's what the pool got divvied up on. So just really, really, it's always nice to do this. And this is why I solo mine a couple of things. I'm solo mining Conflux right now. And I've been catching blocks like crazy on it. You could see F2 pool caught in a matter of actually the exact same time, caught 2 for 61 each. They caught 120 Ethereum. So, which is fantastic. This is why I mine. Not only, of course, I like to be a participant in the project. I like to ensure its security, by maintaining the blockchain. But, of course, it's all about making the Ethereum, right? Making the Ethereum, making the Flux, the Ergo, the Raven coin, the Firo, everything that I'm mining. So, but I wanted to bring that up, especially, for people that have second thoughts about, man, I really don't want to get into crypto mining because of the Ethereum going proof of stake. God knows when. Listen, I've been around the crypto world since I started trading in 2018, and it's always been in the books, right? Vitaly's always wanted Ethereum to go proof of stake when it first came out, almost a decade and a half ago. And in 2017 they tried to do it. In 2019 they tried to do it. I mean, sure, they're going to do it. I'm not going to bore anybody, but you can't see the bottom half of my screen. Yeah. You don't need to, man. There ain't nothing there. It's all that is just my RSI, man. Yeah. Yeah, you're not missing anything. Don't worry. But anyway, so Ethereum will go eventually proof of stake. And then, essentially there's no more mining from a GPU side, right? It's not going to be proof of work. It's only going to be for node operators. So, hey, what's up, bud? What's up, AJ? How you doing, man? My little nephew's on. All right, there you go. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, so let's dive into it. Let's take a look at some of these moves. The first thing I'll bring up is dollar index, right? Everything, especially what's going on globally with, the Russians being at the essentially evading a sovereign country, right? We're seeing, we're seeing evidence of bullish dollar, and I talked about this a while ago, right? I talked about this specifically when Euro USD supposedly broke structure, and what's up, man? How's everything going? One of the things that I wanted to see was the continuation of the bullish dollar. And, we talked about this being the distribution. We talked about it jumping the creek, right? We talked about essentially this high right here being that, that confirmation for the reaccumulation. And then, of course, what do? Well, we came back, we mitigated right off the 50% of our shakeout, right? So in a reaccumulation, your major sign of weakness on confirmation of a reaccumulation, right? On confirmation of that reaccumulation, you essentially now have a shakeout. So we understood this as what needed to be mitigated, this area right here. And, we got that, right? So what's the confirmation? Well, the confirmation that we are going to continue bullish was that right there. So I'm pretty happy with what the dollar has done. I've been, it's whichever way you feel fundamentally about the strength of the dollar. I'm here to trade it, right? I'm here to participate in the market to make that, make those correct decisions on how I'm going to trade things. And, of course, now what am I looking at? Well, on the dollar itself, I want to see, we've got to come back, and just looking at it, we've got to come back and come to at least 50%, right? And, if I was looking at an area to trade out of, it's probably going to be right here. And we already know that we have a reaccumulation on smaller time frame here. We know that we had an accumulation here, which mitigated, and then we have another reaccumulation here. So looking at this, just off of, and if we come over here, let's go to like a 30-minute. Just looking at it from here, right? I mean, what am I ultimately going to be looking at for dollar? Well, I mean, yeah, we're going to have a little bit of a pullback. I'm expecting that, right? But my 2 points of interest are going to be simply this, right? This reaccumulation right here is going to be my first focal point. This is going to be the first area I'm going to be looking for buys out of, right? And then, of course, the reaccumulation following that. So, something in the neighborhood of, when I kind of just set up my fibs on it, something in the neighborhood of this right here. And this right here. So these are going to be the 2 points. I'm just going to set the alerts. And, if I know that this is where dollar index is going to be coming down to, I know immediately how to trade the Euro USD, right? Because Euro USD and dollar are the diametrically opposed currencies, and if and even further than that, right? We know that DXY, right? DXY is the inverse of the EXY, right? So, well, I guess there you go. EXY. All right. So the Euro index feature. So if I'm going to be looking at it, if I come over here and I just throw, let's just say I throw 3 charts up here. The DAG constellation. I haven't looked at it, but drop the link to their project and I'll take a look at it. And I guess give me your thoughts. Like, just throw it in the chat. Why do you think it's going to be life changing? And I guess the idea behind it. So if we come over here and we throw, I'm going to throw my second one here. I'm going to throw the futures, right? 6E1. This is Euro futures. And then if I come down here to the third one and we throw Euro USD. And let's just go up to like a, let's go up to like a 1 hour chart, right? If we have Euro USD here, give me a second. There we go. So if we have Euro USD, we have Euro futures right here. And I take dollar index and I invert dollar index, right? It's the same exact chart. The same exact chart. So now what I can do is I can use divergence. I can do a comparable strength analysis on it to determine which one I'm going to trade. Essentially, how I like to trade is the laggard, right? I like to trade the laggard. If the leader's already giving me that predetermination that we're going to be bullish or bearish, just wait for the manipulation on the laggard and then trade the manipulation, the mitigation of that manipulation, if that makes sense. All right. So yeah, I mean, this is ultimately, if I can have, this is like the cheat code for me, you know, if I know that out of these three charts, if two of them are doing the same thing and one of them has broken maybe a structure point, in the case of Euro USD, well, then I know that I'm going to be waiting for the mitigation of that manipulation. Alrighty. So it's pretty, for me, it's just a pretty simple, you know, a pretty simple setup. Let's get back over here so I don't stay inverted. But yeah, so dollar index, I'm continuing, right? Continuing to go bullish on this. And where am I looking for this to go? Well, the same place I've been talking about for a very, very long time, right? I'm expecting us to reach into this area right up here. This is where I want to see what we do, right? This is going to be for me, it's going to be the pivotal moment of what dollar index is really going to do. Are we going to take this high? Right? Is price, after just reaccumulating here, are we going to continue maybe a reaccumulation here to take that high out? Potentially, right? And you know, ideally that's going to be weeks away. But I'll tell you right now, for me, looking into it from a fundamental standpoint, the catalyst for that is going to be the interest rates on the dollar side. What is the Federal Reserve going to do to curb inflation, to bring back some sort of stability to the U.S. market? You know, we already know that they've already indicated point blank that they are going to be doing rate increases. So I think that's going to be the catalyst for it. All right. So this is dollar index. You know, with dollar index, and you can already see, so this was my kind of homework assignment for everybody in my mentorship group, right? This was, a lot of us caught some really good moves on these pairs right here. Again, it was essentially all US dollar crosses and some of the JPY crosses, right? If you saw, I posted on TradingView, on my Twitter page, on Instagram, I posted the NJ trade setups. We did that Thursday, and yeah, I mean, listen, when you really understand that market cycle, that market structure, and that price action, trading a 1 second schematic is the same thing like trading a 1 hour schematic. It just means that you have little time to really react off of it. You've got to really understand what you're seeing. So it was just phenomenal price action, right? Phenomenal price action on it. So yeah, let's dive into it, right? See who, somebody mentioned ACAD, right? And yeah, ACAD came into it came into a really nice area, right? We had been talking about where I wanted to see ACAD come in. Well, you could see I had the marking on it. I wanted it to come into the extreme, and by golly, it came into the extreme, right? You know, one of the things I would definitely recommend is if you don't understand how to properly backtest, you know, you have to understand, okay, so we know that we came into the extreme. We know that this was a sign of weakness right here, right? This was our sign of weakness that invalidated demand, right? This was where our last demand area was that created this leg. And we know that we're bearish from up here, right? So when price, and we'll go in replay mode here, right? When price distributed here, right? This was a pivotal moment, right? This was a pivotal moment for ACAD. And if you come down and just look on the lower time frame, you know, you'll see, okay, what do we have? We have the start of a distribution on a higher time frame, right? This in itself is a larger distribution, right? We have our trading range right here. You have your climax, your test, your up thrust, and then your UTAD, right? So this entire move is our UTAD. All right. And then going even deeper into that, we can see that on a micro level, right, we have another super clean. And you can see, like, I was even, I traded this right here, which was a shame. I traded this move, got a really nice reaction. And then when we came off of that 80, ended up just paying myself what I risked on the trade. And then we obviously broke even on it. But in this distribution right here, right, in this micro that's sitting right there, that's the pivotal moment, right? That's the key that you want to really start to dive into on a more lower time frame, on a fractal level. So price comes in here. Let's just go to the 1 minute, and I'm gonna name this a micro distribution, right? So on this micro distribution, let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at it. So this is one of the things I always tell people that I'm kind of giving a lesson on in understanding the anatomy of a schematic. It's always, to this day, no matter how many charts, right? I've got to be close to like 9,000 charts that I've got saved, that I've got, put into my computer, saved into a trade journal, or printed out. And I will always box it out, and I will always throw out my trading range, right? I will always throw out my trading range. All right, we're going to throw this down here just so we have it. So on my trading range, right, what do I have? So I see that price, and the key is also session time, right? What session does this distribution occur in? It occurs in New York session, right? This is all New York session. So we have this going on right here. Let me clean this up. We have so we have our climax, right? Our climax, it's our first change of character, right? It's the first opportunity, and the analogy I always like to use is for those of you guys that drive, right? When you're coming up to a stop sign or a red light, do you just stop right at the exact point, or do you start to slow down? No, you start to slow down, right? You start to see that momentum start to give way. And then from there, it's understanding that price now needs to start to test the waters, right? They need to see, do they have enough assistance to really move this market lower? So do you only trade structure swings as opposed to like what? Order flows? Yes. I personally only like to trade structure points. Why do I only like to trade structure points? Because my journal tells me to, right? That's one of the things I implemented last year, was stop trying to play the counter trend move and stop playing the order flow. And what that resulted in was I took less trades this year than the year before, but I made a whole lot more profit, right? Made a whole lot more profit. So for me, right, I need 3 drives and a manipulation. So this is how I would label it. And then we even go even further than that, right? So I can even go now. I wonder can I get down 5 seconds? Yeah, I can. All right. So inside of this, we've got a super micro. So if you can understand the price action, the anatomy, this is where it really becomes important. So to whoever caught this, awesome job, man, because I already know where this is going to come. I can guarantee I know where this is going to come. So you've got a super micro in your 4th drive, right? So now it's just building confluence, right? It's building the reason to take this trade. So we know that price has now, in our 4th drive, has created, essentially, when you look at a schematic, you have to think of it as orders being filled, right? So they have created orders. They have done this in the 4th drive, and I'm just going to come in and focus on this 4th drive, right? So what do we have? Let me move that up here. So we have a climax, a test, and a UTAD right there. And then we also have our rally. So if you always remember this, your climax to your rally defines your trading range, right? And for me, I think the biggest problem I think early on that I had was I was trying to identify my trading range way too early, right? Way too early, and there's no need to it, right? So on the higher time frame, right? And when I talk about the higher time frame, I'm talking like maybe this 15-second. What's the structure that needs to get broken, right? So if I just hide my drawing for a second, hold on. If I hide the drawing, I know that this is our high. Well, what's the previous high, right? Well, the previous high is not this one. It's not this one. It's this one, right? This is the previous high. All right. So what do I need to do? I need to wait for this break, right? I need to wait for this break in order for me to take off of this schematic. All right. But that won't be the case off the lower one, right? Because off the lower time frame, I can actually get into this earlier, and it looks like there was a really good entry there during New York session. So when we come over here and we see this schematic, the first thing I'd be looking at, okay, so where is my UTAD? My UTAD is this mark right here. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to measure my UTAD, which is this right here. This is my UTAD. This entire point right there. Yeah, this is actually pretty good. Really, really nice price action. It is. Yeah, Gary, you got it, bro. Refrigerator worthy, man. These are the schematics you trade, right? These are the ones that I look for, and when I see it, man, I pull the damn trigger on it. You know? So you've got beautiful price action. And then what do we have here? Right? Like, what do we have going on right there? We got a redistribution. Right? A failed accumulation is going to be your redistribution, right? This is the key. So we can come, hold on, let me throw this here, right? So we can see that when we mark out our UTAD, right? When we mark out our UTAD, we can see that this right here is our entry, right? Right off the 50%. Beautiful price action right off of our 50%, right? Why do I like the 50s and 80s? I mean, honestly, it's just something that I've back tested to the cows come home, and I've really seen so much evidence to trade the 50 and the 80s, right? Okay, so we can see that we had our distribution. We can see that we get our big MSAL, right? And that allows you now to take this trade. And I know this trade looks like it's a monster of a trade as far as a stop loss requirement, but listen, you're sitting at 1.4 pips as a stop loss. That's what you're looking at, right? That's ultimately what you're looking at. And where did price end up on Friday going to? Price went to 91.81. So just looking at this, let's see, 91.81. So just where price ended on Friday, you're already at a 1-41, you know. Let's see, there's a lot to talk about. There's tokenomics partners. My English is very bad to explain. Yeah, but just, all right. I mean, yeah. Do I ever do 80% off micros? I do, man. But I'll tell you right now, like, you know, like a lot of people ask me, what's the one that you throw $50 at? It's that 80% of the micro, you know, because you catch a trade that's got like half of a pip stop loss. You don't need to risk much. You know, a $50 risk on a 1 to like 200 makes you some really, really, really good profits. All right. So anyway, so yeah, we've got the redistro, right? And if you come over here and we just mark this bad boy out, let me make this a little bit bigger. And I'm really happy for everybody that caught this trade, man. It was this right here is a beauty of a trade, right? So you've essentially, when you mark out a redistro, it's an accumulation, right? That's essentially what this is. So you have your climax, your rally, your test, your up thrust action, your test, right? Price then does what? Gives you a spring. So from that spring, now what does it do? It comes up and gives you a sign of strength. Well, It's actually just coming in to mitigate the prior distribution. And then when we break that low, when we break through the ice and give that new high or new low, now we have a confirmed redistribution. And now you change this sign of strength to your shakeout, right? To your shakeout. That's essentially what you're marking out. So now just looking off of this, my main focus, right? And we're just going to move this over here like this. Hold on. My main focus will be this right here. This is my main focus for my next entry, is this shakeout and how that relates to the larger, price action. Yeah. You saw it play out, but didn't execute off the 80% of the 1 minute UTAD. My belief was that we had invalidated the supply of the redistribution that we were playing off to the left. All right, we'll take a look at that. Hold on. Let's see. So you're saying that we invalidated supply because we traded through this right here from January 5th. So let me just give you a little bit of how I look at things, right? So because we traded above this right here, right? My one question would be this: when you didn't mark the IC a little above, like the last when all right, wait a minute. When you didn't mark the institution candle a little above. All right. Yeah, man. Okay. So I guess my question is, what does this represent for you? Because for me, it represents nothing, right? This represents absolutely nothing. And here's my thought behind it, right? What's your line in the sand, right? What is your line in the sand that tells you, you know what? I am no longer looking for sells. And for me, my line in the sand is this, right? My line in the sand is this. So what am I waiting for? I am waiting for price to come into my area. Well, what's my area? My area that I want mitigation of is this right here. And when price comes into the 80% of that move right there, you better know that I'm pulling that trigger right there. Right? You're in the Netherlands with 4 trading friends. All right, awesome, man. Awesome. Every time we say price, awesome. That's a good drinking game, man. Awesome. Do you always take pro trend? Yes, I always take pro trend trades. Absolutely. Yes. I stopped counter trend trading. The only time I counter trend trading is for a hedge opportunity. All right. But anyway, going back when price comes to that area right here, I've got to pull the trigger. I've got to, I mean, that's just something I've learned to embrace, is I have to pull that trigger, right? Without a doubt, I have to do it. Okay. So now let's get back into this, right? So now when we're looking at it from a micro level, yeah, I mean, and it very easily could have been, my when it comes to invalidating supply, you got to ask yourself, where is supply? Where is your line in the sand? Where is supply? Essentially, what is that area where supply is no longer in control of this market? And for me, yeah, it was pretty simple. I knew that I was 100% fine taking, and I would have taken this trade out of here without a doubt, right? Without a doubt. Same thing when price. Let's just go to a more realistic level. I literally had it marked down in lot size calculated, but bottled it. All right. Yeah. Do I think ACAD will come into the extreme? No, I don't. I mean, it can, but I personally don't think it's going to come. So, okay. So we have these just beautiful indications of price action. And let's not lose focus of where the larger time frame accumulation really needs to come into, right? We know that this, right? We know that this is the 50%, We know that this is the 50% of the UTAD on the, and we'll just say the 1 minute, right? We'll say like the 1 minute time frame. And we know that this is the 80% right here of the same. All right. So by just zooming out, I know, right? By zooming out, I know, okay, so maybe I didn't get into the smallest of price action or time frame, but I know that we still need to come into here. I also know that when we break that low right here, I also know that when we break this low right here, we come into the 50%, right? So the 50% for me is done, right? It is done. Now, instead, what I need to do, right, is I need to now look at this as the next redistribution where we're in control from. Okay. Okay. So now what am I looking at, right? I know that this 80% is still on the table of this larger move. And I also know that we can potentially come right back into this last point of supply that has caused or has been the fruits of this entire area of distribution where we know sellers came into this market. All right. So here's my area. I'm looking at something in the neighborhood of this right here, right? So 50% of this redistribution we can see was mitigated, right? Was mitigated. So this, man, I'll tell you right now, New York session on the 23rd gave, let's just count this up, right? Let's look at it from this area here. It gave your first opportunity. It gave your first opportunity right here. Okay. Your second opportunity came in the form of when we broke this right here, coming into the 50%, gave you a second opportunity right here. And what did I say we were at? We were at 91.81. 91.81. Do I use the FXCM? I mean, I use all of them. Yeah, to me, just do your due diligence, right? I mean, listen, to me, it doesn't matter. Awanda throws wicks, FXCM throws wicks. What was the one we did the other day? Pepperstone is on there. Pepperstone just had price action that didn't happen. It was a gap. You just got to bounce around and look at different price actions, you know? So it is what it is. Like, I can't tell you one's better than the other because in my opinion, they all have discrepancies. So it gave a second entry here. It gave a third entry off this 50% right here with a stop loss above here. This stop loss was the biggest at like 3.9, right? And I think that's it. I wouldn't have played anything else because now we need to break this low. And it no longer becomes advantageous for me to take it. So once we break this low, now this is where we could potentially, and how I would have managed this, I'll tell you right now, how I personally would have traded this. The minute we broke this low right here, I would have paid my risk on the trade on all these trades. So whatever I risked on them, you know, if my original risk, let's just say was $100 on this, right? I would have paid my $100 out of that trade there. And in reality, you know, every one of these trades would have allowed the previous one to be risk-free because I would have been at break even after going reduced risk. All right. Okay. So really clean price action. I'll tell you right now, I'd be looking for us to come back into this 80%, since the 50% gets mitigated right here, right? Because we see it come back up. Hold on, let's go over here. There we go. Bear with me. Look at that right there. Right into the 80%, man. That was a beautiful. Is that Manny, is that the one you caught? That was a beautiful setup. So you can see my first area I was looking was at the slingshot area here, but then this happens on Friday, and I was done with trading on Friday. So, but man, that was a phenomenal setup. That would have been, what are we talking? We're talking 2.2 pips. So where we close on Friday, you're at a 1 to 25, and all these over here. Right. I'll tell you right now, my first big area to partial out where I would have probably been off like 50% volume would have been out of here. So at like the 191, like 50 area would have been where I would have secured some partials. And you're talking a 1 to 20. You're talking a 1 to 45. And where's the last one? So 1 to 20, 1 to 45. And a 1 to 59. Eventually it would have hit break even, but you would have taken 50% volume, if not more, out of this. Yeah, this was a really good setup. ACAD was phenomenal. And the fact that we came back, and this is exactly the very nature of how you should backtest, right? Figure out the reasons why. Where would you have looked for price to come in? Where did it come in? And I guarantee you, we can even go a step further. Like if I just wanted to, let's just say I'm going to move this up here, I can guarantee you just by looking at this ends up coming into that fractal 80%. Is that where it comes? I'm almost positive. That's just by looking at it. That's where it comes. Right into it. Right into this move right here. So just super, super clean price action. Yeah, this is definitely one. Yeah. It came back into mitigating this UTAD right here. So just super, super clean price action. Yeah, I would throw ACAD. I would throw ACAD on your list to backtest this weekend. That price action and study it, print it out, study it, take a look at it, because this happens so many times in the market day in and day out. And it's, again, looking at the reason to get lower timeframes. So for me, what would that reason be? Well, I mean, that reason is we come right into the 80% of the entire move, right? Coming into that 80% has to be the reason I'm looking here. I didn't look at NCAD. I know it's on here. Let's see. Hold on. I didn't even look to see if NCAD gave. No, NCAD didn't. So you could see the divergence between NCAD and ACAD. So NCAD's the actual leader, NCAD's the actual leader, because NCAD doesn't even come up that high. And you can see what's it do. It just plays right out of the, actually it does exactly what I wanted it to do. It came right into the candle the slingshot that I wanted it to play into. We mitigated right out of London's price action, and then she collapsed. So, this would be another good one to go back and backtest. Look on it at the 1 minute. Now I can already see where it's going to come into. Yeah. Look on the 1 minute and you can see the manipulation that occurs. This being your manipulation, right? This right here is what I'd like to see price come into. This is your 50. This is your 80, right? Where does price come in? I will figure out right now. Now, there you go. Right into the 80. Smack dab into the 80. So understanding the point of interest is so important. Understanding one, there's a 2.4 pips. That's what this was, right? 2.4 pips, and you're sitting on a Friday, you're sitting at a 1 to 19, I've talked about this multiple times, right? Like when I really get into the nitty gritty of it, what do I look for? So I have to understand structure first, right? I have to understand structure. Once I understand if I'm bullish or bearish and from where, then you have to dive into your supply and demand. And essentially, what is that? That's your market cycle, right? Follow your market cycle. If you are in a bearish market and you're seeing an accumulation and you're seeing a reaccumulation, we have to start to look where are they going to distribute from, right? Where is that distribution going to occur? And guess what? If you miss the distribution, how do you get back in? You play the redistro. So how would I get back into like an NCAD or ACAD right now? Wait for price to show me an accumulation, whether it's here. Once we do that, when we come back into the area that I would be looking for a potential sell out of, look for lower time frame distribution. If I don't catch that and we make a new low, guess what? We just redistributed. Now I know my focal point is this, and I will play that market. Essentially, if you remember this, your reaccumulations and your redistributions are what? They're continuation moves, right? So one, they cannot hold structure because they're continuation moves. But you play the continuation move until it doesn't play no more, right? I'm going to continue to sell the order flow because that's essentially when I'm playing order flow, it's out of these. So I'm going to continue to play order flow until I get bit, right? And if that's the case, order flow for me is a reduced risk anyway. I don't put as much equity into a order flow play than I do a structure play. So I'm okay with that. See, I'd like to ask if you know how to copy analyze from the main layer to the other layers when I want to look at 2 graphs or more at once. So, okay, so I'll tell you this. When I do 2 at once, do you see how you have, you can see it here. Do you see how I have these selected, the drawings? So if I do the drawing, they will copy over into my other feeds, right? So you just got to make sure that you have them synced. So that's how I do it. Let's see. Can we look at EN? We can. I'll tell you right now, I personally don't like to trade EN because on my personal broker for my currency account, I look at anywhere between a 6 and 8 pip spread. And it makes no sense for me to have a 2 pip stop loss with an 8 pip spread. And then on the prop firms that I trade for, it's still the largest spread that I trade. It's still over 2, but we'll take a look at it. In what instance do you leave limit orders or wait for price action to play out? Man, there's about 100 different scenarios for that. I can tell you that if it's a structure point, until that limit order is invalid, I will leave it in. And if it's a structure point, if it's not a structure point, then the minute the order flow has changed or left that area, the limit's done for me. I think that'd be the easiest way to describe it. But there are a lot of scenarios that would be in play for that answer to kind of make sense. And honestly, I don't have the hours to get into each and every scenario that would do that. I could tell you this, a lot of my trading is that scenario based, right? It's not one sock, or it's not one shoe fits everybody, right? It's literally, if this plus this and this happens, then I will do that. If this does that and then this, then I'll do another thing, it's all, and this is like when I do my backtest session and I'm going through it, I'm looking, okay, so always ask yourself questions, when you're doing your backtest. What would invalidate this? At what point would I go reduce risk? At what point would I go break even? At what point should I pay myself some risk? At what point should I take partials? And why? Always know why. Always have that answer. And if you don't have the answer, then you haven't gone deep enough in your backtest, right? You haven't gone deep enough to really understand what price did. Because, your first 10, your first 20, your first 50 of those, all you're doing is you're gathering the information. And then when you have all of those charts, you start to see the commonalities. You start to see the pattern. You start to see, okay, so I need to wait for this, or I need to do this, right? That's how you build your trading plan. I think a lot of people jump into building a trading plan because they've seen other traders, right? For me, and this is why I haven't deleted any videos on my YouTube. Go back to 2 years ago and look at my videos, right? Look at those videos and then look at the video we just did on ACAD and look at the difference in my trading, because I've evolved it, right? For me, yes, my trading plan is my rule book, but it can be augmented and changed depending on new data. And you have to be able to adapt to those changes. Everyone always asks, why do I not trade Asian session? Because I used to, and I was just getting a bunch of losses. It wasn't worth it for me anymore. Mike, why do you have this gray box after Asian session? Isn't that still Asian session? Yes. But when I have I don't know. I think we did like 2,500, 2,700 charts, back tests in a 6-month time span. And we found that, man, that Frankfurt Open, that 1 hour time frame is extremely influential. It's extremely important, you know, and it's something that, you know, I had to adapt to. And I'll tell you right now, granted, I don't get up in the morning to trade it, you know, but there are people that I know that took that information and, you know, they're making some really good profits off of that 1 hour Frankfurt Open timeframe. So, you feel like a kid in the candy store. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'll tell you this, I'm, you know, I'm sure you can hear it in my voice, but I'm passionate about trading. I love it. You know, I love doing this stuff. I love, I mean, most of you guys know I used to be a cop, right? I was a police officer. I did all kinds of crazy crap, but I still like to get to the bottom line. I still like to do the investigative part of it, you know, and this allows me that opportunity to really investigate what the market did. So finding those answers, right? That's my drive. That's what gets me up every morning. That's what, you know, when I'm not trading, I'll tell you right now, you know, if you think I take 100 trades a month, listen, if I take 12 to 15 trades a month, that's my average. So what do I do the rest of my time? I'm investigating the market. I'm trying to figure out and answer those questions. Why did the market pivot here? Why did the market react from this? What happened? You know, even though I don't physically take the trade, I still have it marked out. I still follow it. I still track it because you know what? Like NCAD, I didn't take the trade on NCAD. You know, now granted, I've been holding sells on NCAD for a very long time. I've been in trades on NCAD from September and November that I'm still holding, and I have no plans of closing out, right? But now, if price gives me the reason to get back into this trade, you bet your butt, man, I'm going to pull the trigger on it. You know, it just so happens that I didn't need to trade Friday. You know, Friday was one of those days where I was up pretty good profits for the week, for the month, and I decided I'm going to go do something else. Where do you get the study materials? So, I mean, most of you guys know, like I started my trading journey in IM, you know, and I give a lot of credit to my development there, you know, part of, I'll tell you right now, like there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, right? So, you know, yeah, I tried out some different trading strategies. I finally landed in this, you know, it's a culmination of understanding smart money concepts, understanding market structure and cycle, and understanding Wyckoff theory. You know, I give a lot of credit to Zach McDonald on there. You know, Zach definitely gave me a lot of inspiration, a lot of drive to really understand this. And then from there, it honestly took a lot of dedication on my part. I wasn't spoon-fed a lot of this stuff, you know, me finding, you know, that 80% entry points took a lot of hours, a lot of nights, me being up till 2 o'clock in the morning, just studying the market, printing out charts, marking up charts, trying to find, you know, okay, what's my edge? So yeah, I mean, I would definitely say there's a lot of material out there. There's not one thing I can say, do this and you'll be great. You know, do this, you know, it's all about an evolution of your trading experience and your trading journey. So yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, one of the main reasons I'm doing the stream today is, you know, like I said, I mean, I've got kids everywhere today. Today was a big sports day, and, you know, I'm not doing anything between the hours of like 3 and 5. So I figured I'll do a little stream. You know, I like doing this because it helps me, and, you know, it helps me to really see the market as well. You know, the more times I jump into the charts, the more information I'm going to get. So yeah, absolutely. Yep. All right, cool. So someone mentioned Euro NZD. Well, before we get to Euro NZD, I shared NZD JPY. I would definitely, if you're watching this, I would definitely do this. I would definitely give a look to these right here, and you can add ACAD and NCAD to it, but I would definitely give a look at those because those gave some fantastic entries. And you know what? Give me 2 seconds. I got a dog that's barking, or a cat that's meowing out there that wants to come in. So give me 1 second. Hold on. Alrighty, we back. So yeah, I would definitely give a look at these. AU was a really great play. We'll go into it. So let's look at EN, right? So EN's on my secondary list, and give me your thoughts. Like, and I'll tell you right now, like, I would imagine that I'd be looking for the buy. I was actually looking for a buy out of here first, just out of order flow. But when we broke that, now you can see we've got market cycle, accumulation, reaccumulation. So ideally, this is what I want to see us come back into. And I mean, that should start piquing your fancy right there. Let's just look at it. I don't even think we need to go lower time frame. Let's see. Well, first and foremost, let me just see if this came into 50%. I think it did. Yeah, it did. Yep, she came past 50. All right. And then where does she come into the most recent reaccumulation? Just a little short. Okay. You got a couple of buys on yen last week, but both were short term. Yeah. Can I take a look at GCAD? I cannot take a look at GCAD. Why? I'll tell you what. I will look at GCAD, and I think I said this months ago. I will take a look at GCAD. If you post your chart, post a chart down in the chat here. You don't need to post the whole link. So like if you take a screenshot of it, right? So you take this shot over here. Instead of copying the whole chart, right? Just copy the last part of the chart name. So this part right here, just copy that part right there, right? And post your chart in the chat. I would love for somebody to tell me higher time frame and intraday structure on GCAD, because I want to say that we're sideways for a decade. So that's GCAD and ECAD are not on my repertoire for looking at charts, because they're just sideways. All right, so we've got our trading range. Oh, come on. Now TradingView is going to do this to me today. All right, so we got our trading range. So let's just see if everything jives. So we've got a climax. We've got a climax to a rally. To a test. To a test. You got an up thrust action. And another up thrust action. So I'll tell you right now, this is why I don't trade type 2s. Because on a type 2, you would have taken the loss, because price, you were probably going to be looking for a buy out of here, right? And price would have just smashed right through it. So my journals told me stay away from type 2s, unless it's a higher time frame type 2 and I can find a fractal inside of it. You're looking to buy out the current area market presented some nice opportunity. Do you ever take entries based off of the 50 and 80, or do you? No, of course I take it off the 50 and 80. Yeah. It's got to be worth it. You know what I mean? So if that 80% off of the intraday schematic is 47 pips, just think about it. For me to get my 1 to 10, it's got to go 470 pips. And that's me now being tied, my equity being tied up for margin for however long it goes. 400. If it's UCHEF, 470 pips could be a decade. You know what I mean? So you've got to think about margin availability. You have to think about time. One of the things I'll tell you right now, for me, how many trades that I have marked out that I see that I'm like, I want to take this, but then I ask myself, do I want to invest my time in managing this trade? Do I want to take that time to journal this trade? Right? Everything for me is a cost-based analysis and a risk-based analysis. Right? Is it worth my risk? Is it worth my time and cost? because if I'm looking to catch a 1 to 5, and let's just say that I put, say it's an order flow play, I'm trading my FTMO account, and on my order flow play on my FTMO account, I'm risking $62.50. Is it worth a 1 to 5 on a $62 risk is about $300. Is it worth $300 for me to do 3 days worth of journaling and trade management and equity, and stress to deal with it? No, it's not. Now to somebody else, it may be worth it, but I can tell you from a risk base and a cost base analysis, it's not. So I need to see, if we're dealing with an intraday schematic and that 80% gives me a 7 pip stop. Oh, you bet I'm going to throw that on there. You can bet I'm going to throw it on there. But if I can find a more reasonable or a more refined entry, I'll take it. And of course, what am I going to use? I'm going to use the alerts to my advantage. Price comes into the area after triggering an alert and I see a lower time frame entry, I'm going to take the entry off of the lower time frame because it's going to give me the best bang for my buck. All right. When it went lower than the STB, so it went lower than this, you marked a redistro for now. Okay. All right, I'll take a look at it. Hold on, man. One second. We're going to pull it up. Just so I can have these up. We'll look at them in a sec. Hold on. All right, so you got that one, and then let's see this one. All right. Yeah, we'll take a look at we'll take a look at them in a second. So here's another little bit of advice that I'll give you too is when you're trading. I used to for the first part of maybe like for the first year that I was really trading as a full-time trader, right here on the bottom of my screen, I had a sticky note that said zoom out, right? And I've always learned you got to zoom out. You have to zoom out. You have to get the bigger picture because I'll tell you right now, when price breaks, let's just say this, right? Say we're right here and you're saying that this was the redistro for you. Okay. This was the redistro. And I'll ask you this question. If this is your redistro right here, right? What's your next move? What is your next move? Are you selling price? And let's just look. Let's just see what price has done. Has price invalidated demand? And the answer for me is no, it has not, right? Because my line in the sand is this. This is my line in the sand. So I'm going to continue to look for buys, right? And it's all based on, do I still use RSI divergence? Yeah, absolutely. It's just another checkbox, right? RSI divergence or comparable strength divergence is just another confirmation. Do I use it only on? No, I don't use it on only micros. I mean, if divergence is present there, it's present, right? It's giving you that change of momentum is coming. So anyway, you've got, for me, I'm still looking for buys, right? Even if this happens, because now let me ask you this. We are, let's go, what was I, 15 minute? By doing this, can we not get a spring? Absolutely. For me, we can most definitely get a spring. So I would now be looking for price in my spring, right? I'd be looking for price to accumulate. So no, I'm not selling it because it's bullish higher time frame. But I wasn't going to buy off the 1 minute when it went below the STB. All right, just think about that. Just think about that statement. You weren't going to buy essentially out of the spring, right? For me, absolutely. I'd be looking, and I'm guessing this is where you got in right here, right? This is where you got in off the 1 minute. So let's look at it. Hold on. Let's look at it. Off the 1 minute. Do I have anything here that I would take? Let's see. At what point would I look for a buy? All right, so let's take a look. Let's just see. All right, we're definitely filling orders. Let's just see. At what point would I look for the buy? So let's just see. Do we have... So we have a type 4 here, but I wouldn't be buying until we break outside of that high. Let's just see. At what point... Oh, look at that reaccumulation. All right, so let's go. Let's look. Let us look. So as soon as we break this and confirm a reaccumulation, I'm game on. Right? As soon as we do this, so you have your distro, you have your creek, you have your creek. What time was this at? I'm venture to say that this does not happen in real life. Let's just look. Let's verify it. Yeah, no, it doesn't happen in real life. Look at that. So we can essentially do this all the way up to here. So we'll hide that out. We didn't need it, right? So here's your accumulation. Here's your accumulation. Yeah, okay, I got you. I got you. Yeah, this was super clean. Tell you what, man, there was a ton. I don't even think these wicks happen, but you're looking at like that right there. There's your market, your trading range. Looky at that. So you have, right? You got a climax, you got a rally, you got a test, you got an up thrust action, you got a test, which becomes a test in B when you get your spring. This is your spring. That's not where you took it though, right? Let's see. Oh, I gotcha. All right. That would have been my entry right there. What are we talking here off that 50? We're talking 4 pips, or we're talking 1.6. Yeah. Yep. But now I would need this. I would need this high to break. We break right here. There's your break. There's your break. Right there. There's your break, and you can see. So you have a confirmed, like this whole big thing is a reaccumulation, right? And then even on the most micro side, you've got an accumulation with a reaccumulation. So this right here is going to be one focal area that I would be looking for a buy out of. And then this would be the other right here. These are 2 areas I'm looking at because right now order flow is being controlled by this low right here. Do you have seconds time frame? So I just used a roughly 50%. I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, this was actually super. And so this is pre-New York, right? This is pre-New York. And if we really think about, let's just see, let's play it out. Let's see how. Let's see. Yeah, I got you. You don't have it. There was your entry right there. That was your entry. We came back into the area, right? Coming back into the area that I was looking at. Again, EN, a lot of these wicks don't actually happen. Like when we look into this wick right here, let's look into it. So there's no orders right here. There is no orders here. So do we come into that 80? Yeah, we do. Look at that, man. Look at that. I understand trading is just a way for money to be moved around, but I want to understand more about it. Example, does Euro USD mean Euro banks, hedge funds? Wait, Euro banks and hedge funds are buying dollars. So they're buying the conversion rate. They're not actually buying dollars. Now, they're buying dollars on the futures contracts, right? So essentially that's what's happening on the larger scale. They're actually physically buying more US dollar and selling their euro. So that right there was the entry. Well, what would that have been? 1.8 pip. Now, 1.8 pip was something I would have taken. Absolutely. And then we could see coming out of that, right? If we just get over, let me get rid of this volume profile. But now you've got your accumulation, right? You've got your accumulation right here. This being your accumulation right here to here. So this is your spring and this is your entry. Price coming all the way back. I don't think it actually trades below it. Let's see. Nope. Makes equal lows. Makes equal lows on it. So just keep in mind this, like, why does the market do that? I'll tell you right now, if this was EU, you wouldn't have seen it come that far. But the problem is you've got a pair like Euro NZD doesn't have a lot of physical volume that's being traded compared to these other more major pairs, right? This is more of an exotic pair. And for them now to manipulate the market, they may need to come lower because there's not enough buy orders sitting above it, you know? So yeah, this is actually a nice little entry. Yeah, you got it, man. You got it. What are you guys drinking? You got to let me know what you guys are drinking. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And then gold. What was the other one? You want to look at gold. Hold on. Gold on the 1 minute from 1924. Let me just see. What did gold, let's get up to a more, what did gold do? What did gold do? Gold actually traded above my structure point. I don't know if you guys saw this, but I've been waiting for gold for a very long time from here. And we actually traded above it. So I foresee some really big bullish moves on gold now. I wouldn't be looking for a sell. So 1924, let's just see. 1924. Yeah, but yeah, it was the middle of nowhere. Say no more. I mean, you have a distribution, but you're in a bullish market now, right? You got a distribution. Here's your UTAD. There's your UTAD. And there was your break. Yeah. Is it being recorded? Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, it's on YouTube Live, so it's just going to stay on YouTube. So Heineken, I got you, man. I got you. just for scenario purposes when there's two schematics printing. What do you mean two schematics though? What's the two schematics? Yeah, what's your two schematics? I see one. Right? You've got to look back. So nothing happens until this right here. So like, what do you play? Well, you've got overall, you've got the redistribution. So here's your distribution in the redistribution part, the shakeout, if that makes sense. But I never would have taken this. I'll tell you that right now. I personally wouldn't have taken it. Yeah. Yeah. You know, but if you've got two schematics, you play the market cycle. You know, you've got the higher time frame schematic is always going to trump the lower time frame, if that makes sense. Yeah. All right, I'll tell you what. I'm going to do this. So one last go. If you want to be in, I'm going to do the comment picker. So if you want to be part of it, make sure to like and comment on that video that I posted above in the chat here, because I'm going to do it after the next chart. I'm going to do the VPND raffle. I'll give that away, and whoever wants to start their own VPND node and get some passive income on it, it's going to be there. So, do you recommend trading drunk? I wouldn't. I wouldn't. There's a reason why when you go to Vegas, you always get fed alcohol nonstop, right? Actually, you drink for free when you're in Vegas at the casinos because they want you to not be sober and make a conscious decision and have, you know, a very rational and thorough understanding of what's going on. So, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right, give me one sec. Let me just see where are we at. So let me just see. Is this the video? I think it is. Yeah. Could you do a rundown on BTC and Ethereum when you have a chance? I guess I can. Yeah, absolutely. Hold on. Bear with me. 1 second. Let's see. What do we got here? Yeah, we got 18 comments. That's 18 people that we'll run through. All right. Oh, you're only 16. Awesome, man. Yeah. Tell you what, my daughter's 16 and I've been trying to get her to learn how to do this trading stuff, man. And she just, yeah. What do I drink normally? So I'm a rum guy. Rum, or I am I'm a whiskey guy. You know, I like some bourbon. I like some Scotch whiskey, but I've always been a rum guy. Trading drunk will make it easy for journal entries. That it will. Yes, sir. That it will. So real quick, let's segue over here for a second to some nodes. So I did a video on vapor nodes, right? I did some background work on it, looked at it. And so I'm running 3 nodes on it. You know, I don't have a lot of actual physical equity locked into this, but I do have enough that it'll make some passive income. You can see there's currently 33,000 nodes being run on this, right? And they're offering 1% ROI per day. So when you come over to my nodes, so this first node, right? This first node started with 1802 is what I put in there, right? I did that video. I had 1802. So you can see in the span of 13 days, I've made about 2,000 tokens plus another 128 that I haven't claimed yet. And you can see I'm doing about 1.2%. So I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, again, disclaimer is, you don't want to risk anything more than you're willing to wake up tomorrow to and it be gone. So, I'll show you real quick, it's pretty simple. Like all I do, you can either claim it or you can compound it, right? I'm going to be compounding it. So I'm going to come over here. I'll hit compound. And I personally, my suggestion is this: do it once a month. Because you're paying in Avalanche, you're going to have to pay an AVAX for this, and of course the 1% burn fee is going to be what the pool is charging you. So I come over here to compound, and it's going to open up my MetaMask, and I'm just going to charge whatever it is. I think it's going to be like 0.001 AVAX. Let's see. It is, oh wow. Yeah, so I'm going to wait because it's actually charging some monster gas fees. But all you would do is come here and confirm. Yeah, I'll wait. So, and essentially that's what I'll do is I'll just keep compounding these. You can see there's different tiers to it, but it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you just sit here and when you want to do your withdrawal, you go ahead and hit claim, right? Hit claim, and you can do your withdrawal at whatever point you want. So my goal is I'm going to let this run for about 60 days. I should be my break even day. And if you think about this, right, if it's paying you 1%, it's going to take you 100 days to break even on this, right? 100 days. However, it continues to go higher. You can see I'm at 1.2, and every time you compound, you get a 25% bump. So if I'm at 100 tokens, right? I'm at 200, but if I'm at 100 tokens that I have essentially been rewarded and I compound it, they're going to give me an extra 25 tokens for just compounding it. And this is how you, with tokenomics, this is how you lock up, you know, tokens from people, big whales selling it off. All right. Yeah, it'll be saved under the live section. So yeah, you got it. Absolutely. How often do I do the live streams? Whenever I get a second. Probably maybe once a month, maybe a little longer. So yeah. So anyway, let's do it. Let's go into the comment picker. Let's see who I'm going to throw the 1,000 tokens to, right? So bear with me. Let me just get that. Oh, wrong one. Hold on. Wrong one. Let's go to comment picker. Comment picker. There we go. And we'll do it live. And if I know the person, I'll just message them. I'll DM them and tell them just send me your MetaMask or your whatever wallet you have your Avalanche wallet in. If I don't know, I'm going to tell you what you got to do. It's pretty simple. You're just going to screenshot yourself logged into YouTube. Okay, so we're going to come over here. Let's paste the video, right? We're going to paste the video. I'm going to filter out duplicate users. Let's see. I think it was like 18. All right, so there's 22 comments, right? 22 people going for it. Let's see. Do it again. Yeah, 22 people. And now we're just going to do the random pick. All right, so let's see who's going to get it. Who's going to get it? Bear with me here. I mentioned lava nodes. Yep. No, because it's not live yet. It's not live yet. Yeah, lava nodes isn't live. They're in the next couple of days. So I'm actually, tomorrow morning, I'm going to do the video on lava nodes, and I'll post everything I've got. I'll post like their Twitter site, their Discord site that you can follow along. And then I'll probably, as soon as they get released, right, on the whitelist and for pre-sale, I'll do that video showing how to do it, because I'll physically be buying it and I'll show you. And then go from there. All right. Okay, so here we go. Let's see who the lucky winner is going to be. Well, there you go, man. There you go. Congrats, man. Congrats. So this is the only thing I'm gonna have you do, right? So you can either hit me up on Discord or Instagram, right? And all I need you to do is I need you to hold on, let's see. All I need you to do is sign in, right? Sign into your just so I know who you are. Sign into your YouTube, screenshot it, send that to my Instagram or to my Discord. DM me in it, and just throw in your actual MetaMask or your whatever wallet you have Avalanche in. All right. And then you can go ahead and, you know what? Hold on. I'm going to do this too, just so I remember. And let me do it like this too. 1 second. You got it, man. So DM me. As soon as you DM me, I'll go ahead and I'll throw you the 1,000 VPND, and you can set up your node. Alrighty. There we go. All right. So I screenshotted that. Awesome, man. Awesome. And then, like I said, I'm personally, I don't know, you can go on the calculator for everybody that's interested on this, right? You can go on this calculator and you can see current APY is like 3,600%, right? Which is phenomenal. So for me, it's worth the risk. You know, like if you start your first node with 1,000 VPND, right? You're looking, okay, it's not much. You're making $13 for the month, but your initial investment is only like $38. You know, if you have, so like, let's just say you do, because my other node is 10,000, right? 10,000 VPND. All right. I mean, that's still in rewards in 30 days. I've made almost 3,500, right? 35% is almost what I've made in that month. I mean, it's worth it, especially if this booms, especially, you know, it's all speculative, right? But especially if this ends up tearing up to 50 cents, $1. All right. Do I have a free Discord? So I share a Discord with Sam, and you can go onto my YouTube channel, right? So the public Discord that I have, if you go over to Discord, you go over to YouTube and you hop into, give me a sec here. All right. So if you go over here to my channel, and you go up here to the top right in here, right? So you can see, there's my Instagram, my Twitter, my other YouTube crypto channel, and then you can click the link here for Discord and it'll take you to the Aporia group, right? So all you got to do is click on it and it'll take you, let's see if it's still active. Hold on, because I did this a long time ago. Oh yeah, it'll take you to Aporia. So it takes you to the Aporia link, right? And you can accept the invite. So we started that thing not too long. Oh, what is it? Almost a year and a half ago with like 13 people in it. So that thing's up to like 2,000. So we throw a lot of good stuff in there, and that's where I'll post like my links and stuff like that, videos and whatnot. All right. Yeah, you got it, man. Absolutely. So all right, bear with me here. Okay, cool. Alrighty. So we did that. Just like I said, DM me. We could talk about it. You know, and segueing into the nodes, right? I mean, again, I talk about on the crypto side. Is it? Let's see. Is it possible to join your mentorship Discord, Mike? Yeah. Just hit me up on Instagram or DM me in Discord, and I'll give you like the specifics about it. All right. I'll tell you this. I like to keep the group small, just because, you know, it becomes very difficult when, you know, like I would love to mentor 1,000 people, right? But it's just not possible. You know, so I like to keep it small. I like to like vet the people that I'm doing, because I'll tell you right now, all seriousness, you know, especially the people that are in that Discord, right? It's not designed for a new trader. You know, like we move very fast. We really analyze the market very thoroughly, and you know, I personally just don't have the time, nor do I want to teach somebody how to mark up a chart, right? I don't want to teach somebody how to install MT4 on their desktop. I don't want to, you know what I mean? Like those little things you can pick up, you know, through any of the, you know, you can go on Baby Pips and learn how to do that stuff, right, for free. So it's more designed for, you know, people that have been trading, have a little bit of experience, but now just need to fine tune and really want to, you know, enhance their understanding and knowledge. All right. Could you? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As soon as I'm done with the call here, I'll check that stuff and I'll get back to you. Okay. All right. So like I said, segueing, right, just for a second here, segueing into some of the crypto stuff, right? We'll talk about BTC. We'll talk about Ethereum. One of the key things that I've been doing for a long time, right? I believe in crypto, right? I'm an avid crypto user. I use crypto every day, right? Whether I'm making transactions, whether I'm stabilizing the network because I'm a miner and a node operator, right? I run a bunch of nodes. You can see I've got I've got polar nodes, vapor nodes. I'm running a Thor node, a strong block node. I have a Mystique node, a pre-search node. What else do I do? I run a Raptorium node. Now I would love, and that's my goal, is I want to run an Ethereum node. You need 32 Ethereum. I am almost there. I currently, like I said, what was I making? I make in a month, I make zero 0.4 Ethereum. So the way I look at it, it's going to take me, I'm hoping to get to the 32 Ethereum by the merger. And if the merger happens in July, I should get there. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do. All right. Awesome. Yeah. I'll tell you right now, it's not all about, listen, I love the 1 to 2 pip stop losses, but sometimes it doesn't happen, right? Sometimes you got to take a 7 pip, a 12 pip stop loss. The key is understanding like when and why, right? When and why you need to take certain trades. So like I said, let's segue into crypto. I talk about my crypto farm all the time. I really started diving into this investment part of it. Like you see, I'm up to 31 GPUs. I'm mining a crap ton of stuff, right? I'm mining Flux, right? And we'll talk about Flux nodes as soon as we're done with the charts of it. But Ergo, I'm mining Ethereum, I'm mining Alephium, I'm mining XMR, Monero, Ton, right? CFX, which is Conflux, Raptorium. There's a couple other ones in there that are just lower hash rate. These are just the top hash rate ones. But yeah, man, I love to mine. I have my house is fully solar powered. So, it doesn't cost me a lot of money, to run all of this mining stuff. And, where do I see BTC and Ethereum going? Well, let's look at it, right? I'm still bullish on this. Nothing has changed my mind on crypto. Let's start with the big one, right? Let's start with BTC. What is BTC doing? And in reality, I said I wanted to see, 32K, and we came to 32K after making the high. So when we look at market cycle, we can see that price respected this low and accumulated here. That accumulation led to the break, right? So we had the distribution into an accumulation, which ultimately is just a higher time frame reaccumulation, right? And, from there, what do we want to see? Well, I wanted to see price come back into this last push, right? This last push right here. We came into it. I still think we may go one more leg lower. I still think we may come into that. And I wasn't prepared to really call the big bull run until we broke this high here. Well, now that and let's just kind of focus on what's happened. I don't like to predict, right? What I like to do is react. Prediction is what costs people money. Reaction is where you make your money. So we know that just from an order flow perspective, this was what? A redistribution, right? It's a redistro. And what do? We accumulated, we reaccumulated, and then we distributed, right? And we did that after breaking the high. Now, the only issue I have is that Ethereum did not do that, right? Ethereum did not do that. And Ethereum and BTC for me are benchmarks against each other. So what do? Well, it looks like we traded back into, right back into this. Right now, I personally don't, I haven't margin trade crypto in a very long time. I'm more on the investment side, but you can see that we tapped into 80% of that push, right? So we've come into 80% of that. And by the looks of it, it looks like there's a nice little accumulation here. So what do I want to see? I'll tell you right now, like if price can get above this high here, and that's why you see that alert right there. If price can get above the 46K mark, I'm personally going to be prepared to start investing in some more projects. Because like right now, everything I've been invested in, it's we're just holding, like I'm just holding the line with it. I haven't injected any more of my equity into anything, simply because I'm waiting for us to get back in a bullish narrative. And right now we're not. Right now we're kind of, we're still in bearish order flow. I'm just waiting for price for buyers to come into this market. I do keep track of transactions happening in the, in Bitcoin and Ethereum, so when a large amount, and if you think about this fundamentally, right, what does it tell you when you have X amount of BTC, right? Let's just say $100 million of BTC, right, was just transferred from an exchange wallet to an offline wallet. What does that tell you? Give me your thoughts. What does that tell us? Will BTC get to 25K? I'll tell you what, if it gets to 25K, we're in a bearish market. Yeah, it says whales are accumulating. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, it's not that they took profits. If they're moving, exactly, they're hodling it. If they're moving it, because if you think about how do you sell your BTC? You have to move it onto an exchange to sell it. So if $100 million of BTC has been moved off of an exchange into an offline wallet, right? Like a ledger, like a trust wallet, any offline, off an exchange, that means that they're hodling it, right? They're going to hold on to it. They're not planning on selling it. When you see the reverse of that, when you see a transaction, a large amount of Bitcoin or Ethereum being transferred from a offline wallet to an exchange, it means that they're getting ready to sell it. That's where you would see price start to drop, right? Do I think it's going to get to 25K? I'll tell you right now, if BTC gets to 25K, we're in a bear market. If we break this low right here, if we break 29,300, we are in a bear market, and potentially I'd be looking for price to probably get back down into, I'd say that we're probably going to get down into this. So if I had to guess like where we're going to go, it's going to be like between 55 and like 9K. This is where we would probably come down to, which honestly, fundamentally, I think that's going to, you've got to think about it like this. Well, it's not institutions are moving money, right? Because institutions aren't doing this with Bitcoin, right? That's the whole reason. And you want to, if you're going to be a participant in the crypto space, here's some suggestions I give you, right? You want to keep up with what's going on. And how do you do that? You need to verse yourself on Reddit boards. You need to, Cointelegram or Telegraph is a nice little blog to follow. YouTube is a great source, but just keep, everything is subjective, right? But you want to keep an idea of what's going on. I'll tell you right now, what's going to happen to mass adoption if Bitcoin comes back down here, right? What's going to happen? And, if you're Michael Saylor, and you are, obviously CEO of Gravestone, and you are fully invested in Bitcoin, if you start to see those assets depreciate that much, you're gonna have to pull the plug, right? Pop smoke, find another LZ, move on to another project. And when you start to see whales leaving the project, that's it. That's where the project flatlines. So for Bitcoin's sake, I really hope we don't come back down there. For cryptocurrency in general, funny enough, my daughter's doing a paper in college. She's dual enrolled, so she's taking a college course, and she's doing a paper on cryptocurrency. It was one of the selected things that she had to do, and she had to watch a TED talk on cryptocurrency from 2016. So naturally, I lent her my ear to what crypto is doing. And when you really think of the project itself, the idea, the ideology behind cryptocurrencies, it's a superb thing about it. You are essentially, the decentralization causes fear in the eyes of institutions because they no longer have control, right? They can't control the financial market. And if they can't control the financial market, they lose the power. And power is everything, right? So when you really start to understand the implications, right, of cryptocurrency, just look what's going on around the world right now. Look at Ukraine. You know, how long do you think it would have taken to get funds in the hands of Ukraine? If it was financial institutions, absolutely. You're going to be greasing some palms to do that. But in a moment, hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin was transferred instantly, right? So the idea that each and every one of us can have a part in the financial market, in the actual market itself, not like being a participant as a trader or as an investor, but physically, you know, whether you're mining it, whether you're running a proof of stake node, right? Whether you're actually conducting the transaction, you have a part in that financial market. And it's, you know, I know the biggest thing about crypto is people think it's used for illicit or illegal crimes and it masks this, but you know what? You show me how I can look at just a random bank account, log online and look at a transaction that occurred on a random bank account. You can't. There's no transparency there. But you know what? I can go on Etherscan and I can look at every single Ethereum transaction conducted. That to me is transparency. You know, so yeah. Let's see. What's going on? Hold on. Bear with me. All right. Let me know. I saw the stream went down. I think YouTube's censoring me, man. I think YouTube is censoring me. Let me know. It says that it's back online.